And here we go. Welcome to QDL. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest. Well, perhaps because of faster computing and more emphasis on automation, perhaps because of multiple disruptions in the global supply chain over the past decade or so, or maybe just because customers want more customization, we have seen the industry has seen a significant spike in engineer to order or project-based manufacturing. In some cases, we've heard that this is actually doubled in the last 10 years or so. Today we have with us Matt Mong, Vice President, Market Innovation and Project Business at Adeaca, to talk about this topic. Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Dirk. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, no sweat. So, I used engineer to order or ETO and project-based management. I use them in the same sentence. I'm not sure, is there a difference between the two? Is it two different terms for the same thing, or is there a difference between ETO and project-based manufacturing?
Well, I think it depends on who you're talking to, but it is semantics for the most part. But the way that we look at it is that project manufacturing or project-based manufacturing is sort of the umbrella term that sort of kind of covers all the types of manufacturing that get done on a project, orientation or project-driven schedule. Whereas ETO kind of has its niche in the very engineer-focused manufacturing. So it just depends on who you're talking to, what's the actually specific niche industry that we're looking at.
Okay, and if you could tell us a little bit, just quickly, what are some examples of industries that use project-based management?
Right. So you're talking companies like aerospace defense. There's industrial manufacturing, industrial equipment manufacturers. A lot of time are engineer to order, so they're kind of project-based. But then you've also got things in, for example, energy and utilities do a lot of project-based manufacturing when they're building those big windmills and things like that. And then you've got things like in biotech and pharmaceuticals. A lot of what they do, especially at the beginning of their cycle, as far as developing a new drug or a new treatment or new even equipment, that's all project-based.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is, rather than made to stock or repetitive manufacturing, we're talking about projects that are unique to a particular customer for a pharmaceutical company or one of those industries you mentioned. So that's what the distinction there is. You're not mass producing something, you're basically a customized product or service for a particular client.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, there's lots of different terms for it. I mean, yeah, so you've got the make to stock, sometimes make to order, and then you got configure to order, right. And then all the way you've got engineer to order, which is full on, that is unique to every customer. And then the engineer to order, we call also falls under that project manufacturing label.
Okay. So I mentioned that what we have seen, what Quality Digest has seen and other industry journals have seen, is that there seems to be a lot more talk, a lot more chatter about ETO, project-based manufacturing. Has your company, Adeaca, and we should say that Adeaca sells solutions for project-based manufacturing, has Adeaca seen growth in this market? And if so, why do you think that is? What's driving that?
Yeah, so we have actually, a lot more customers are, especially in the US and developed countries, are becoming more project-based, even outside of manufacturing, but all especially in manufacturing. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think one is a lot of the repetitive high volume manufacturing has been offshored to places like China and Asia and things like that, or South America. And then there's also then the automation that has come for those high volume repetitive manufacturers. So that means that the companies that are left in the US they're serving a higher purpose as far as the engineer to order and the project-based manufacturing, where you're making products for for that type of a customer. And then also there's also this shift, I think, in the industry as a whole towards more sort of projectizing your business. And with the technology that we have now, we can do that more and more. Whereas, before it started, Henry Ford, it doesn't matter what color you want as long as it's black.
Right.
That's what you get. Now it's, with Dell, it kind of started with that mass customization for consumers. We particularly serve, the B2B market, obviously, but where you're talking about, engineer to order products and those project-based manufacturing products that are unique to each customer. And that has grown a lot now that we see the technology around it to be able to support that.
No, it's interesting. So I want to explore that a little bit. So Adeaca, you say basically you focus on B2B customers, not so much B2C, where we're seeing mass customization. Does at some point, is there a transition for the B2B customer where they've done a project, a project-based manufacturing product? Does that eventually translate to something that is then a made-to-order product? In other words, is the project-based manufacturing, ETO, is that simply the first step toward developing for their clients, toward developing a product that then becomes a regular standard product?
It can be for sure. Pharmaceuticals is an example of that, where
Sure.
at the beginning, when you're first developing that drug, that is a project, and it's likely a multi-year project where you're talking about going through all the different types of testing that you're trying to do for that drug and the iterations that you have. Whereas you get to the end, then that is mass manufacturing time, where you're just repeating. And there's lots of examples like that. You can spend a lot of time, for example, making a custom mold for
Sure.
an equipment, right?
Yeah.
For an equipment, and then at the end, you're whipping out that equipment over an assembly line, basically. So I mean, there are those examples. We tend to focus on the companies that are doing that upfront project work. So a lot of times for the companies that are doing that project work are not the same that are doing the mass manufacturing, because they both have their skill sets, and the project-based companies have theirs, and that's where we focus.
Okay. So what are the challenges faced by project-based manufacturers? I mean, are they using the same software tools, design tools, MEP, ERP, the whole alphabet of software? Are they using the same tools as made to stock companies? And if not, are they facing particular challenges where with those kind of software don't work for them?
Yeah, so they try to. And that's where the problem comes in. They try to use a lot of the same tools that, for example, the mass repetitive manufacturers use, which is basically the ERP. That has built into it all the manufacturing tools that those high volume manufacturers need. You got your supply chain and procurement and your production schedules and things like that in the ERP. But for a project-based manufacturer, its projects is the core of what they do. And that tends to not be included in that type of business system. That sits outside of it. And that becomes a problem for them when they try and integrate all that back into the ERP and start to try and manufacture things. So that it becomes a big mess. So what ends up happening, they typically use multiple systems, multiple applications and tools to do these things. They have a project scheduling tool, they got some resource management tool, time and expense tools, and then they've got an ERP, but it's basically just an accounting system for them. Sometimes it runs some maybe some back-end MRP stuff for them. But it's all these different tools doing their own thing in these silos. And that becomes a major issue. It's, the delays in information sharing. Nobody knows exactly what's going on with the projects at any point in time. And typically if issues pop up, it's, they don't figure that out until well after the fact. And then it's too late. The project has already, been sort of hindered at that point.
So it sounds like it's a lack of integration is what it sounds like, is the data that might be necessary to make decisions isn't available to the department or the function that needs it.
Exactly. I mean, that's right. I mean, they develop into these silos and they think they work great. You got your project managers over here and they like what tool they're using. If you got your financial controllers over there and they like what tool they're using, but it doesn't work together. And then that's when the problems happen, and especially at the higher levels and the upper management and the executives, they don't get to see what's going on. And they get those weekly or monthly updates, and then it's too late. It's just a reporting procedure at that point. It's not really active management, proactive management of what's going on.
Okay, so on the flip side of that, then what does I don't know what you would call it, ETO software, project-based management software, like what Adeaca makes, how does that address that? Does it simply integrate everything, pull all this data in together and put it on some sort of one platform where it's all visible, or is it a self-contained system? What's it look like?
So yeah, it is. It's what we do, and where we think the market is headed is what we call project business automation. So basically, it recognizes these project-based companies as sort of their own sector, if you will, or industry. They're project-based, and that's the core of their business is projects. Whereas, so if you compare that to say retail, for example, okay, they're a retail business. It doesn't quite matter what they sell in their store, whether it's groceries or electronics or all kinds of different widgets. It's a retail business, and they actually use all those different types of companies use very similar systems, and it's all integrated into one, from procurement all the way in supply chain, all the way through their point of sale system. It's all integrated. That's how they can do all these different things and know exactly how many items they've sold every day, how to replenish the stock and when to replenish the stock. That's how that works. Project-based companies don't have that. So that's what project business automation brings to them, is it integrates all those core project processes and functionalities in one system. And it actually integrates back into the ERP, so that everything around your projects, which your scheduling, your financial controls and cost management, all of your insight and analytics, all of that is contained then within the ERP as well. And so it's all integrated with your supply chain and manufacturing, and everything works together seamlessly.
So is this then become a matter more of, it's more efficient to have all this all in one thing, or does it actually improve the quality of the product or the service, whatever the output is? Do you get improved quality as opposed to just improved efficiency by doing this?
Yes. So both. Yeah. Obviously, it is much more efficient. And it also allows for the automation and just the connection of processes that just wasn't possible before. That when you've got these different systems, that when something's manual, there's error that creeps into the process. When you're dealing with, if you're building a big engine or parts to engine, and it's a $50 million project, and it takes 12 months to do it, and you're trying to manage that with spreadsheets, that's a big deal, and that is just an error prone process. And so what can end up happening is the quality. That's why a lot of projects, if you look at actual project delivery information, most of them are behind schedule. Most of them end up over budget, and the quality suffers, due to the fact that these things are not automated, and they're very manual. So when you do integrate it all, you start to eliminate those errors. and so in the process. And so the delivery of the project is better, and the delivery of the final product can often be better because of that.
Okay. And last question here, and this is just asking you to kind of look into the future a little bit. Is all of this part of what would fall under maybe what we call mass customization, where the customer, whether it's a B2B customer or B2C customer, are we moving toward the point where everything is customized? The order just, the opposite of Henry Ford, you can get any color you want as long as it's black. Are we moving toward that? And is this part of it? Is this type of software and this type of process part of mass customization?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because when you start to look out into the future, well, a long ways out into the future, when you start to be able to automate so many things with technology and the sort of development of AI in the process as well, you could get to that point. I could see that coming where, well, especially in the B2C market, right? I can see that coming where, instead of ordering something from Amazon that is in stock, that, instead of Amazon delivering it to you, it actually produces it, or the third-party seller produces it on demand at that point. But you're talking about a lot of technology that would have to be in place for that to happen. So I do see that being far out into the future. What we do, especially in our customer base, that would be even farther out into the future because of the complexity of the projects that our customers deal with. When you're talking about huge projects that are $150 million and they take years. I mean, that's it's really hard to automate everything in that process. But especially in the manufacturing space, the engineered or the construction space, you will see more and more of that. I mean, for example, one of our customers is sort of bridges the gap between manufacturing and construction with a modular, type approach, where they actually construct the modules of the building beforehand and then bring it on site and basically install it. So they manufacture these modules and then they construct the modules. So that type of thing, the automation is going to creep more and more into that. But the getting to the point where you press a button and the machines make a building for you, that's quite a long ways in the future.
All right. Okay, well, Matt Mong, Vice President, Market Innovation and Project Business at Adeaca. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Been great.
Hey, no sweat. And thanks to all of you today for joining us as well. As usual, if you have a topic you would like us to cover on the show, just email us at qdl@qualitydigest.com, and we will do our best to bring that person on or talk about that topic. So once again, thanks for joining us, and we will see you at the next QDL. So long.